We've hit the finish line of the Broncos offseason, and even though minicamp is officially in the books, there are still some questions surrounding the quarterback position and how good can this defense be? We'll try to answer all of it before our summer vacation begins. Welcome in to Broncos Weekend, everybody. I'm Matt Boyer. Former Broncos safety Nick Ferguson will be along in just a moment. But as always, we start in studio with the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. Steve,
Matt Boyer,
Pro Football Hall of Famer, Colorado Sports Hall of Famer. There, I like you rocking the polo there. Steve, we've got just a little bit more than 5 weeks of summer vacation ahead of us. This is our last show, before training camp. So, what do you think about this team? Where does this team stand in your mind as we hit the summer break here?
Well, I think we're in a good place. We came in, got some good work in with the non-mandatory OTAs and then the mandatory this week. I think the guys made some progress. They able to get on the same page in some areas. And the real test is going to come once we get to training camp, though.
Minicamp started on Tuesday, and all we heard was Locke versus Bridgewater versus Locke. And we start today with the incumbent, Drew Lock. How much he's been able to put into practice with all the extra work and all the extra film study he's done this offseason.
The biggest step that, I tried to make, and it was, kind of reiterated to me over this offseason, was just working on protections, knowing where I'm hot. And that's kind of been a big emphasis on me watching film this offseason, coming out here every day. There's a lot of work that went in this offseason to try to fine-tune that footwork, and it's changed a little bit, but I feel really comfortable with it. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Drew obviously has made great progress from a year ago. Last year he kind of went into the season raw without having really an off season. And he worked his way through it, and he did a lot of good things last year. And I think he kind of built on the good things he did a year ago.
My plan stayed the same kind of momentum and routine and schedule that I had during this off season. It's going to be the same. I've just decided that, I'm going to put the head down and keep grinding until this season's completely over. This is my job. This is my life. And, I want it to be for a very long time. And I want this city and this team to be successful. And that won't come without work.
Steve, Locke looked pretty good on day one.
He did.
Day two, a little more inconsistent. How important is consistency, though, in his evaluation when it comes to this competition?
I think that's the main thing for Drew Lock. That's the only thing that stopped him really from having a great year last year is the inconsistency. He'd have a great game, then he'd have a not-so-good game. Then he'd have a great game, then he'd have a bad game. It was kind of up and down, a roller coaster, and I think if we can smooth out those bumps and have more highs than lows, I think he'll be on the right track. I thought he had a good week of practice. The coaches, they'll know much more than we will just in terms of the actual progression that he's making. Is he hitting the right receivers at the right time? Is he making the correct reads? And that the coaches will know that much better than we will.
Vic Fangio was asked if he had a timeline for choosing a starter. He does not as of this moment. How much do these 3 days really matter, these 3 days of minicamp? How much did this week matter as far as Drew Lock's evaluation goes? Because conceivably we could be very well into the preseason, playing a couple of preseason games before a decision is made. So how much do these 3 days or this minicamp matter?
Well, it could have an impact and it could not. I mean, if he's come out here and just improved tremendously just in terms of the reads that he's making and the decisions, then the coach will say, man, he's made a big jump. But if it's kind of similar to the way it was last year, then I don't think it's that big of an impact. Again, I think once training camp starts, I think that's when Drew Lock knows, the coaches know, the players know that that's when the real bullets start, and that's when the true evaluation is going to happen. Because in really the 2 or 3 days that they had this little mini camp, I don't think any decisions were made.
Steve, for Locke, this competition and this environment is definitely new territory. On the flip side, for Teddy Bridgewater, he's pretty accustomed to this type of environment. He said earlier this week, his approach to the whole thing, just keep shooting.
When I'm out there, I understand my job is just to find completions, get the ball to my guys and not my opponents, keep our offense on the field. So, everything else will take care of itself. It's one play at a time when you're out there. You look too far ahead, that's when you fall. So just keep shooting. That's the mindset. I'm a guy, man, who just takes what the defense gives me. And when you play this game, you're going to have your shots. You want to push the ball. And then you're gonna have some plays where, it's conservative. But this offseason, man, I've just been trying to complete the football. I'm having fun in the process, and I'm just looking forward to finishing this mini camp strong and heading to the training camp.
He's been in a couple different situations since the time we were together. One where he was a backup, one where he was a starter. I see when he's out there executing, he's been able to pick things up very quickly. There's a lot of similarities to some of the things that we did, and then some of the new stuff he picks up quickly. He's a quick decision maker.
I played with a bunch of guys throughout my career who, I've talked with and, got their opinions on different things from a quarterback perspective. And, all those guys love catching the ball, of course. But, for me, I'm just playing pitch and catch. Whatever makes it easier for those guys to catch the ball and make a play after the catch, that's what I'm all for. So if it's a floater or a touch or just a catchable pass, we can label it whatever we want.
Just keep shooting, Steve. I like the motto. That's one I want to apply to my life. Teddy's approach to this competition is just keep shooting. How valuable is that mindset when you're him coming into a new situation, just playing consistently, just keep shooting? How important is that?
I think it's really important, and to be honest, I think Drew Lock could take something from his game. He can learn that from Teddy Bridgewater's game. Teddy Bridgewater tries to take what the defense gives him. He's throwing the ball to the open receiver, and that's the thing that I think Drew Lock can add to his repertoire to make him a better quarterback. But, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, if you watch practice, you saw that he's just doing. He's steady, just steady, making the completions, taking the ball down the field, and that in turn help the defense be more rested when they get on the field. And can you imagine what a rested Bradley Chubb and Von Miller are going to look like?
That 26 sack total that you mentioned earlier this offseason.
Right.
It's reachable in that case.
I'm loving it.
Bridgewater also addressed the criticism, Steve, about his velocity. I know a lot of people in the media have been making much of the fact that Drew throws it with a little bit more pace than Teddy does. Teddy just says, hey, it's a catchable ball. Are we making too much of that velocity disparity, or do you think there's any pressure in Teddy's mind to say, hey, I got to ramp it up a little bit here?
I think he's more than sufficient. I've seen him throw balls down the field that had more than enough distance on them. So I think he's a touch passer, and from what I could tell, he and Jerry Jeudy have great sync. They're in rhythm right here, and I think it can be a good thing.
You can clock it with a sundial as far as I'm concerned.
If it gets there on time,
right.
Not a lot of interceptions, not taking a lot of sacks, hey, that works.
Yeah, and statistically speaking, Steve, last season, Lock and Bridgewater weren't that far apart. I mean, in terms of completion percentage, Teddy was 10% more accurate than Drew. But what's the biggest thing that Bridgewater needs to demonstrate here in training camp? Is it consistency? Is it completion percentage? Is that what he needs to demonstrate here in order to win the job?
I would say yes. I don't think he needs to come out here and try to show everybody that he can throw 50-yard touchdown passes. If he can move the ball, move the chains consistently the way that he's done in his career, I think that'll be more than adequate. And again, the defensive coaches are going to love that because they know that their defensive players will get a chance to be fully rested and be more effective when they're on the field versus all of a sudden, hey, it's first, second down, first series, and you throw an interception, and then defense got to run back on the field. And all of a sudden now defensive coaches have more pressure and more points are getting scored on them. So it's the snowball effect. I think the entire team would like to have a more consistent quarterback, whether it be Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater.
One thing I can guarantee about consistency, Steve, this debate will be a consistent topic until we resume things back there at the end of July. We've got to take a quick break. When we come back on Broncos weekend, we'll check in on a guy we saw in person for the first time all offseason. We'll hear from Melvin Gordon next. With the arrival of mandatory minicamp also came the arrival of running back Melvin Gordon to UC Health Training Center. And aside from a new look, he trimmed his dreadlocks off this offseason. It looked like the same old Melvin Gordon that we are used to seeing. And consequently, that means expectations are high for him in 2021.
Felt good being out there, just playing football, moving around. No matter what you do in training, you just can't simulate that. Being on the field, making those cuts, and just being around the guys in general. So kind of missed them, haven't seen them in a while. So it was good getting back out there. Just all overall, man. You know, we just gonna go out there. I'm gonna just go out there. I'm gonna just do my job. I'm gonna compete, man. Wherever the cars fall, they fall. You know, I can't really worry about that too much. I know that's kind of the talk, you know, and, you know, the media is making it Javonte versus Melvin, who's going to start, this and that. It's not really about that, you know. It's just about competing and going out there. I'm going to go do my job, so I'm not really worried about that. But, you know, you definitely need two backs. So, you know, it's at some point in time, we're going to need him, we're going to need Royce, we're going to need Boone. You know, it's a tough game, and we got an extra game this year, so we got to do what we got to do. My biggest reason for hating OTAs is because the looks aren't realistic to me. But, you know what I'm saying, you can still work your other things. You can work your details, you know what I'm saying? So that's what we do. We try to fine tune our details, do what we can. You know, you're going to make a cut, not going to look as clean or as sharp as far as like with the look wise. But, you know, it is what it is.
I love how Melvin Gordon kept it very honest during his press conference because he said he hates OTAs because they aren't realistic. You're not out there in pads. For the running backs and the offensive line, it's tough to get good work. So what do you – put your mind in a running back's position, Steve. What are you trying to accomplish in minicamp? Is it just schematics? What is it?
Well, no, I think he makes a good point there, especially from the running back's point of view, a guy who's been in the offense for a year. He knows it pretty well. But the thing is, football is a team sport. Not everybody in that offensive line is on the same page. We got a new right tackle in there, getting used to hearing the different calls from the different players and that. So it is important. It may not be to him, but as far as the team is concerned, it is.
It sounds like Melvin's really motivated, and as we know with his contract situation up in the air after the season, that makes a lot of sense. Last season, though, a pretty successful year. 15 games, 986 yards rushing. What does Melvin need to do statistically in 2021 to say, okay, this was a successful season?
Yeah, well, if he's the main guy, and I think he will be, I think he's got to get over 1,000 yards rushing, and I'm sure that's a big goal of his is to get 1,000 yards rushing, and I think it's definitely doable. The thing is, we have to be on the field more, and we got to have extended drives, and where does that go back to? Back to the quarterback. We can't turn the ball over when we have opportunities and when we have good drives going. So, his success is going to be tied to the quarterback, just like most of the other team.
This was the first week, Steve, that we saw Melvin Gordon in person. But it's also one of the first times that we saw the secondary as one cohesive unit, and that included newcomers Ronald Darby and Kyle Fuller.
With the experience and, the vets we got, especially with the up front we have, like we could definitely be the best, if not top 2, top 3 for sure. Like I see it, like that pass rush, getting back there. We got guys that know what they're doing, communication going well. And it's still early, so we still got a lot of time to, get to know each other a lot more, but we could be real special.
We're delighted to have some veteran cornerbacks, with Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby. And then they jump out in the draft, get us a top 10 pick, Patrick Surtain. First thing when you put a bunch of talent together is you want to know how they fit together. What's the chemistry? What's the harmony? That's been fantastic. Everybody's been working together and connecting. I couldn't be more pleased. You can't have too many guys, and we're going to go to camp, and guys are going to earn roles. We'll get as many DBs that play well on the field. And I know Vic wants to get these guys involved, and he's excited as well.
Steve, Darby thinks this secondary room is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire National Football League. So do you like it with that? Do you like him bringing that confidence, and do you agree with him?
I definitely agree with him, and I do like the confidence. You can't play the corner. I've said this 1,000 times. You cannot play the cornerback position being timid, being meek. These guys go up against some of the best players on the field that they're going against, those wide receivers over there. You think the cheetah is going? Tyreek Hill's going to try and take it easy? No, he's going to try to destroy him. And he's got to have that mindset of, hey, I'm going up against the best. I'm the best. We're the best, and we're going to dominate. So yeah, I love his confidence, and I agree with him. We're going to have a great defense. The only thing we got to do, and I don't know how we can make this happen, we got to stay healthy.
Yes.
If we stay healthy, we're going to be in the mix.
What do you think are the traits or the characteristics that this secondary group needs to take on in order for them to be successful? Darby's obviously the speedster. Patrick Surtain, we saw him out there breaking up passes. Justin Simmons is a ball hawk, but what is going to be this defense's calling card in your mind in 2021? Physicality, speed, what is it?
It never changes.
What is it?
Everybody flying to the ball.
Okay.
It never changes. Great defenses have 11 guys that fly to the ball every single play. I don't care if you're 30 yards away from the play. When you see the ball going, you're hustling your butt down there because you never know. He may cut back all the way back across the field because you loafing, you missed the play. But if you're hustling, you may cause a fumble and change the game. So that's the key. 11 guys hustling to the ball. The turnovers come. The sacks come. Everything happens from effort.
When we come back on Broncos Weekend, speaking of DBs, Nick Ferguson is joining the A-team to talk about the defense and tell us why the quarterback competition might not be as close as everybody thinks. That's next. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everybody. This week on Atwater's A-Team, Steve is chatting with former Broncos safety Nick Ferguson to get his perspective on the Broncos quarterback competition and what factors might matter most when that ultimate decision is reached later this summer.
All right, Nick Ferguson, what are your initial reactions from what you've seen from Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater over these just a couple of days of the OTAs?
Well, it's been really interesting. And the way that I look at it, Steve, you can't get too high, you can't get too low on either guy. But when I look at Drew Lock, everyone's looking for Drew to make a vast improvement from last year. This is his second season in Pat Shurmur's offense. So he should know this almost like memory at the back of his head. And when it comes to Teddy is somewhat familiar with Pat Shurmur, but the system is just slightly different. But some of the things that I saw in practice, when I look at Teddy was able to take command of the offense, being able to make checks at the line of scrimmage. That is so important. That's showing as though he is picking up this offense faster than I guess I thought that he would necessarily pick it up. And when it comes to Drew Lock, you see the arm talent. You see what everyone saw when he was drafted in the second round by John Elway. But the issues with Drew Lock is consistency. Can he be consistent with every single rep, going from 7-on-7 to team to red zone? And he made some great throws in the red zone the other day. One to Noah Fant, one to Andrew Beck, showing that the arm talent that we know for him to have. Now, the only problem with Drew is, once again, I'm seeing some of the same things come up. It is footwork, it is staring down wide receivers, and getting the ball out of his hands with time and rhythm. Hopefully, as we move through, mandatory mini camps, we get to training camp, things will change for Drew Lock.
Yeah. Now, from your experience of not only playing but also coaching, at what point in training camp do you think the coaches will decide on who's going to be the starting quarterback?
Well, Steve, I'll put it to you this way. As a former coach, the decision has already been made. But it is, the way I look at it, decision has already been made either way. Now it's for either Teddy or Drew to actually kind of ascend themselves to change the mind of the coaches. Because let's be totally honest. I mean, this is a very important year for so many players and coaches involved. And you want to make sure that you have some kind of decision in place. So let's just say that everything is going 50-50. The coaches, keep in mind, they've had an idea of which guy they want to be the starter, but they're seeing if that guy is going to fall off and the other guy is going to elevate.
So what do you think will be the biggest determining factor in who ultimately win? Well, you say they've already decided. So what was the biggest determining factor in what they've decided already?
It's consistency. That's what they're looking for. Because let's take a look at things from Vic Fangio's standpoint. I mean, he's been here 2 years, and the local media and the national media have really criticized him. He hasn't really been able to show what his defense can do. So he wants a guy, whoever the quarterback is, to be able to keep the chains moving, keep the drive moving. Which guy can make the anticipatory throws, and then it's consistency. All of those things go together like a fine gumbo, right? And if you had gumbo before, there's a lot of ingredients in there for you to have a great gumbo. So this is what they're looking for from the quarterback position.
You play safety, I play safety. We got to mention the secondary. Now, what are your expectations in terms of turnovers for this year for the secondary? Last year wasn't as high as we hoped it would have been, but
I think this year we can get back on track.
All of those guys know what to do with the ball in their hands, right? And for me, I can't wait to see Kyle Fuller and Patrick Surtain, because those are two guys who can definitely take the ball back for a score. Having so many guys in the secondary, it gives both Ed Donatel and Vic Fangio a little wiggle room to be able to do a couple of things and be creative, but high expectations, because you know this, coverage and pass rush go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So once again, let's go back to the offense for a second. If they can get in the groove, sustain drives, and then score at the end, now you have fresh Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, and you know how this works. Tips and overthrows, got to get those, and they have so many guys in the back end can turn it into instant points.
That's right. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Keep up the great work.
Our thanks to Nick Ferguson for taking some time with us this week. And that'll do it for us today on Broncos Weekend. And as a programming note, Broncos Country, this is our last episode before the summer break, but Broncos Weekend will return full force once Broncos players return from their summer break at the end of July. For the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos Country. We will see you at training camp.